American domestic terrorist Ted Kaczynski is famous for mailing bombs to his target academics and other business executives, ultimately killing 3 people and injuring 24. His first attack occurred on May 26, 1978, targeting the University of Illinois. Ted was born in Chicago in 1942 and had a younger brother, David. In school, he was known to be a major introvert who was an academic genius. He was accepted into the University of Harvard at the age of 16 with a full scholarship, but was unfortunately psychologically abused there by a man of the name Henry A. Murray while participating in an experiment where subjects were asked to write an essay on their personal philosophies. Then they were hooked up to electrodes to measure their psychological response and went through hours of insults and personal attacks on their philosophies.
This experiment went on for 3 years, causing many people to believe that the experiment turned young Ted Kaczynski into a famous terrorist. Regardless of the years of emotional abuse, Kaczynski graduated from Harvard with a bachelor in mathematics in 1962 and later earned a master's and doctorate in it as well in 1964 and 1967. Kaczynski became the youngest assistant professor of mathematics in the history of Berkeley University, but resigned 2 years later without giving reason.
In the 1950s, Ted was an intelligent but socially shy boy from suburban Illinois who skipped a grade in elementary school. He often secluded himself into his room to study chemistry. He had a genius level of intelligence with an IQ that topped 170. He was accepted into Harvard at 16 years old and graduated in 3 short years in 1962. In 5 years, he received his doctorate from the University of Michigan as an assistant professor of mathematics at the University of California, Berkeley. Ted Kaczynski was not a popular or outgoing professor. Practically no one got to know him. In 1969, he abruptly resigned. The social nature of his teaching position was too much for him. He just did not seem to fit in.
The Unabomber, after his abuse, moved out to the woods of Lincoln, Montana to become a recluse and build bombs. He sent them to universities and airlines, killing 3 people and injuring 27. He wrote a 35,000-word manifesto while he was in his cabin and wanted it released. He offered to stop the attacks and the mailing of the bombs if they would publish his manifesto. The FBI gave him the nickname Unabomb because Un for university and A for airline. His cabin in Lincoln was lifted off the ground 70 miles from Lincoln, Montana to Malmstrom Air Force Base by helicopter. He is currently serving 8 life sentences in the United States Penitentiary Administration Maximum Facility in Florence, Colorado, known for holding the United States' most dangerous criminals. The arrest of Ted Kaczynski was the culmination of a lengthy investigation into a series of deadly bombings that had begun nearly 2 decades before. According to the FBI, when they searched Kaczynski's 10 by 12 foot cabin, they found bomb components, 40,000 handwritten journals that included bomb-making experiments, descriptions of Unabomber crimes, and 1 live bomb ready for mailing.
According to the FBI, Kaczynski made his bombs from scrap materials that were unable to be traced by police, causing Ted to be difficult to catch. After the manifesto's publication, Ted's brother, David Kaczynski, who feared Ted may have been the Unabomber, immersed himself in the manifesto. Hoping to exonerate his brother, according to the Chicago Tribune, he could not. Though he agonized over the decision, he contacted the FBI, a decision that ultimately led to Ted's capture. As a result of the plea bargain that spared him the death penalty, Kaczynski pleaded guilty to the many crimes he was charged with, including 3 counts of murder, and was sentenced to 8 life terms with no possibility of parole. He is serving his time in a Supermax facility in Colorado.
This is the Unabomber's cabin in Lincoln, Montana, where he built the bombs that he sent to universities and airlines and wrote his manifesto. The FBI worked with a forest marshal to go up to his door without scaring him and asked him to come out so they could arrest him. They had been sitting on his house for a couple weeks trying to gather evidence for a search warrant, and they finally gathered enough evidence. They went on to Lincoln, Montana, where his cabin was at, and walked onto his property. The 2 FBI agents were undercover as forest marshals along with the deputy forest marshal. They asked him where his property lines were because they were saying they were doing some mining in the area and didn't want to invade on his property. And when he went inside to check his boundary lines, they immediately grabbed him and pulled him out and arrested him. Once the FBI had Kaczynski in custody, Bomb Squad went into the cabin and started searching it for any live bombs and evidence that Kaczynski was the Unabomber. While they were searching it, they found a lot of boxes and containers that they had to all scan for any explosive material. His cabin was only 80 square feet, yet it took them 11 days to search the entire thing. Through the FBI search, they later found multiple 3-ring binders that were full of bomb designs and information that he had written down. Throughout their search, they found pipes, wires, electronics, and chemicals that Ted Kaczynski was using to build the bombs with. They then found a live pipe bomb in his cabin, and all of that was enough evidence to link him to the bombings. Ted Kaczynski is now serving 4 life sentences without chance of parole in the Colorado State Penitentiary where the worst criminals are kept.